Snow fell like shards of glass on the dead world of Zyra 9. The wind howled through the ruins of a war long forgotten. Human engineer Eli Cross moved carefully between broken walls, his breath fogging inside his cracked helmet. His scanner beeped softly, picking up faint life signs beneath the rubble. Eli had come here for salvage, not ghosts. But this signal, it pulsed with something strange, something alive. He followed the sound until he reached a metal door half buried in frost. It looked ancient, melted by plasma fire. With effort, he pried it open. A gust of stale air hit his face. Inside, the corridor was dark, filled with the hum of dead machines. His flashlight cut through the shadows, revealing alien symbols etched across the walls. Then he heard it. A low voice, hoarse and trembling. "Please, don't pull it." Eli froze. The voice wasn't from his radio. It came from deeper inside. He walked forward step by step until the beam of his light fell on a figure chained to a pillar. She was alien, tall, with pale gray skin that shimmered faintly under the light. Her hair was white like the snow outside, tangled and frozen to her shoulders. A glowing blue chain was wrapped around her throat, sinking into her skin like living metal. Every link pulsed with a heartbeat of light. Eli's stomach turned. The chain looked like it was breathing. The alien woman looked up, her eyes bright silver but filled with pain. "Please, don't pull it," she whispered again, her voice trembling like a dying flame. Eli lowered his weapon. Hey, it's okay," he said softly, though his voice shook. "I'm human. I'm not here to hurt you." Her gaze flicked over him, confused. "Human from Earth?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, name's Eli. I came here for parts, not prisoners." The woman laughed weakly, a sound full of bitterness. "I am no prisoner. I am the punishment." Eli frowned, stepping closer. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head, the faint light from her chain painting the walls blue. "They called me Dirty Heritage. My blood carries impurity. The chain marks my shame and keeps the weapon inside me from waking." Eli blinked. "Weapon? What kind of weapon?" Her lips quivered. "The kind that kills everything it touches." The words chilled him more than the frozen air. He crouched beside her, inspecting the chain. The links weren't metal. They were some kind of bioorganic technology, half machine, half flesh. When he moved too close, one of the links pulsed faster, like it sensed his presence. She flinched. "Don't touch it, please." Eli hesitated. "If I don't, you'll die here." "Better that," she whispered, "than the galaxy dying with me." He didn't understand, but the sight of her trembling made something twist inside him. She had been left here to die, alone, chained like an animal. Human or not, he couldn't ignore that. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small plasma cutter. "Hold still," her eyes widened. "No, don't," but he had already begun. The cutter hissed as it met the glowing chain. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the tool sparked violently as if striking bone. Eli stumbled back. The chain throbbed. The entire room began to hum. Lights flickered across the walls, alien runes glowing like fireflies waking from sleep. The woman screamed, her voice echoing like thunder. "You don't understand. It's alive." Eli's wrist computer beeped in panic. Energy surge detected. Unknown biosignal merging. The chain's glow crept down toward her chest, then across the floor toward him. Before he could move, a thread of blue light shot from the chain and wrapped around his arm. His blood ran cold. He could feel something crawling under his skin, like a pulse that wasn't his own. He ripped off his glove. Glowing runes were spreading up his hand, searing his flesh. His vision blurred. For a moment he saw flashes. Cities of light, alien soldiers bowing before something vast, screaming stars, dying worlds. Then silence. The woman was gasping, tears frozen on her cheeks. "You fool," she whispered. "Now you're part of it." Eli staggered, holding his arm. What did I do?" "You awakened it." The runes on his skin pulsed again, syncing with her heartbeat. He looked at the chain. It no longer bound her neck. It was attached to both of them now, a glowing thread linking man and alien. He stared at her, realization dawning. "We're connected," she nodded weakly. "Until death. Or worse." The bunker shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. Alarms that hadn't sounded in centuries came alive. Somewhere deep below, machinery roared awake. Eli grabbed her shoulders. "What's happening?" Her eyes glowed silver, reflecting his fear. The chain wasn't just my punishment. It was the seal on a sleeping god. Eli froze, and I just pulled it. The walls cracked. A blinding blue light filled the room. The wind outside screamed like a living thing. Eli's last thought before the world turned white was that the chain had stopped beating like a heart. Now it beat like his. When Eli opened his eyes, everything was quiet again. The storm outside had faded into a strange blue calm, and the air inside the bunker glowed faintly like a living dream. His arm still burned, glowing with the same pulsing light as the alien woman's chain. She sat slumped against the pillar, breathing fast, but alive. The glowing metal that once held her throat now rested loosely around her wrist, and one end of it was still linked to him. Eli moved closer, voice shaking. "Are you okay?" Her silver eyes flicked up to him. "You shouldn't have done it, human." He frowned. "Shouldn't have freed someone chained like a slave?" Her lips curled into a weak, bitter smile. "I was never meant to be freed. That chain wasn't just holding me, it was holding it." Eli stared at his arm where glowing runes crawled beneath his skin like moving veins. "What's it?" She hesitated. "The mark of our ancestors. The curse of the Heritage War. That chain was forged to seal the weapon inside my blood. Now it's bound to yours." Eli took a slow step back. "You're saying I'm infected?" The alien nodded slowly. "Not infected. Marked." The word hung heavy in the air. Marked. Eli's AI drone, still floating weakly above his shoulder, buzzed to life. "Warning, genetic corruption detected. Human DNA pattern unstable." He swallowed hard. His skin was turning faintly blue where the light touched him. "You said your people chained you because of your bloodline." "Why?" Her gaze softened with old pain. "Because I was born with human DNA in me. My mother, one of your kind, was captured during the first expansion war. My existence offends both species." Eli stared at her, realizing the cruelty she must have lived through. "So they punished you for being a bridge between two worlds?" "Yes," she whispered. "They called me Dirty Heritage. Said my blood carried chaos. The chain was supposed to stop me from ever spreading it." Eli clenched his fist. "That's not chaos. That's life." Her eyes met his, a faint flicker of surprise in them. "You humans always speak like fire, burning without thinking what you ignite." He gave a small grin. "Maybe, but fire brings light too." She didn't smile. Instead, she pressed her hand against her chest, wincing. "Do you hear it?" Eli listened. At first, he thought it was the hum of machines, but no. It was deeper, rhythmic, like a heart beating under the ground. Then the runes on his arm began to glow in rhythm. The drone panicked again. Massive energy surge detected below. Subterranean core activating. Eli looked around the bunker. The walls trembled slightly. "What's happening?" "The chain's power is bleeding through us," the alien said, clutching her side. "It senses the link. It thinks the seal is broken." Eli took a step toward her. "Can we stop it?" She shook her head. "Not unless you want to stop your own heart. We're connected now, human. Our lives, our pain, even our thoughts may cross." Eli touched his chest. For a moment he felt it, a flicker of her heartbeat inside him, a flash of her fear, her loneliness, the years of isolation. He breathed out shakily. "Then I won't leave you. Whatever this is, we'll face it together." Her eyes widened slightly. "You would die for someone you just met?" He smiled faintly. "I've already risked my life for machines that didn't even breathe." "You're worth more than that." Something in her gaze softened. The chain's glow dimmed slightly as if calming. But then a distant rumble echoed through the bunker. The floor cracked, splitting the metal. Blue light poured through the seams like liquid fire. Eli grabbed her arm. "We need to move." She nodded, weak but determined. Together they stumbled toward the exit, the chain between them dragging across the floor, sparking like lightning. Outside, the once dead horizon pulsed with strange lights. The snow was melting into mist, rising upward instead of falling. Eli stared in disbelief. "What's causing that?" "The awakening," she whispered. "The chain has called to the core, and the core remembers." Eli frowned. "Remembers what?" She turned to him, her silver eyes glowing brighter now, reflecting both beauty and terror. "It remembers the war. It remembers humanity." The wind rose again, howling like a beast. The planet itself seemed to groan as if something ancient was stirring beneath the crust. Eli gripped his weapon tighter. "Then we'd better be ready." The alien woman looked up at the storming sky. No, human. You don't understand. What's waking beneath us isn't a storm. Lightning cracked across the horizon, blue and unnatural. It's a god, she whispered. The storm outside was no longer made of snow. It was made of light. Blue arcs danced across the horizon as if the planet itself had veins. Eli stood on the frozen ridge, the alien woman beside him, both tethered by the glowing chain that linked their lives. The wind no longer felt cold, it hummed with power, vibrating against his skin. The ground trembled under their boots. The old bunker behind them sank slowly into the ice, swallowed by blue mist. Eli squinted into the distance. What's happening to this place? The planet is remembering, she murmured, her silver eyes glowing faintly. The core is awakening. It feels the chain again. It feels us awakening? He repeated. You mean it's alive? She nodded. It always was. My ancestors used this world as a prison for what they feared most. A living machine that could reshape life itself. They called it the core of ancestry. Eli stared in disbelief. You mean you were chained here to guard it? She gave a hollow laugh. No, human. I was chained here to feed it. The ground cracked open behind them, spilling light like molten stars. Eli stumbled back as a massive metal structure rose from beneath the ice. A ring of ancient architecture, glowing with alien runes. His scanner beeped wildly. Unknown megastructure detected. Energy signature, planetary scale. Eli's throat went dry. That thing's powering up. The alien woman, Vera, clutched her chest, trembling. It's reacting to the bond between us. It sees human and hybrid as one signal. It thinks the war has returned. Eli turned toward her. Then we shut it down. Tell me how. Vera shook her head. You can't. The core doesn't obey commands, it obeys bloodlines. The link we share is rewriting both of us. We're becoming something it recognizes. Something ancient. The runes on Eli's arm pulsed brighter. He felt a strange pull in his chest, like his heartbeat was sinking to something deep beneath the surface. His vision blurred. Flashes of memory, not his own, burned behind his eyes. He saw alien fleets burning across the stars. He saw humans standing beside aliens fighting against a common enemy, machines made of light. He saw Vera's ancestors sealing the core beneath this planet. And then he saw her, chained here centuries later, repeating the cycle of shame. Eli gasped and fell to his knees. The visions vanished. Vera knelt beside him. You saw it, didn't you? The truth our elders buried, he nodded weakly. Your people didn't create that chain to seal a weapon. They sealed knowledge, the truth. Vera's voice trembled. A truth they were too afraid to face, that humans and our kind were never enemies. We were born from the same seed, split by pride. The wind roared again. The chain between them glowed so bright it cast shadows across the snow. Eli rose unsteadily. If this thing wants to merge us, maybe we let it. Maybe that's the key. Vera's eyes widened in fear. No, you don't understand. The core doesn't unite, it consumes. It will tear us apart until only one remains. The ground exploded nearby. Shards of ice and debris flew into the air. Through the blinding light, Eli saw shapes, ships, descending through the storm. Byra's face went pale. They've come. Who? Eli shouted over the roaring wind. My people, she whispered. The Purity Armada. They must have felt the awakening. They'll destroy the core, and us with it. Eli clenched his jaw. Then we better move. But the chain suddenly locked tight, dragging them both toward the glowing fissure in the ground. The light from the core pulsed like a heartbeat, pulling stronger, faster. Vera screamed, trying to resist. It wants us inside, it's calling the hybrid blood. Eli pulled her close, trying to fight the invisible force. Hold on! But the light swallowed them both. For a heartbeat, everything vanished. Then Eli opened his eyes and found himself floating inside an endless blue void. Metal towers twisted like veins of light around him. Voices echoed from nowhere, thousands of alien tongues whispering his name. Vera floated before him, her chain dissolving into pure energy. In that moment, Eli realized the core wasn't just alive, it was thinking, and now, it was awake. Eli gasped as the blue void shimmered around him. The air felt thick like liquid light. He tried to move, but the chain between him and Vera pulsed again, binding them in a slow, rhythmic heartbeat. Every pulse sent waves of energy crawling across his body, rewriting something deep inside him. Vera floated a few feet away, her silver hair drifting like smoke. Her eyes glowed brighter than before, filled with fear, but also Connection. Where are we? Eli whispered. In the memory chamber, she said quietly. The core doesn't see time the way we do. It's showing us its truth. The blue haze around them began to twist, forming shapes, people, battles, worlds burning. They were witnessing history itself. Ancient alien fleets waged war against human ships, both sides firing until the stars dimmed. Then through the chaos, Eli saw something else. A man and a woman. One human, one alien, bound by the same glowing chain. Vera's breath caught. That's them. The first pair. The what? They created the core, she whispered. They believed unity could end all war. But when they merged their bloodlines, the others called it a curse. They killed them and sealed their creation beneath this planet. Eli watched as the ancient pair reached for each other in the light, then vanished, swallowed by the same chain that now bound him and Vera. He looked at her. So we're repeating their fate. Vera nodded slowly. The core has chosen again. When you touched the chain, it marked you as successor. Now it's rewriting our blood to make us what they were. Eli floated closer. You said it would kill us. Her eyes filled with sorrow. It might. The merging isn't perfect. One blood always takes over the other. One survives. Eli clenched his jaw. Then I won't let it take you. You can't fight it, she said, voice trembling. The contract is already written in us. The core made it long before you were born. Eli shook his head. No system decides who lives and who dies. Not while I'm still breathing. The void began to rumble. The chain around them coiled tighter, glowing white-hot. Voices echoed, ancient, commanding, impossible to understand. The core was speaking. Vera pressed her palms together, whispering in her language. The glow around her body shifted from silver to deep violet. It's reading our thoughts, she said. It's deciding if we are worthy. Eli's runes blazed in answer, fiery gold against the blue light. Then let's give it something to judge. He reached out, gripping the chain between them. Pain shot through him, searing every nerve. For a moment he saw through her eyes, her memories flashing inside his mind. He saw her as a child, standing in a crowd while others threw stones. He felt her shame, her loneliness, her endless years trapped beneath the planet. Believing she was unworthy of love, then she saw him, his childhood on a dying earth, building machines from scrap, losing everything to war, yet refusing to give up. Their minds touched, two worlds colliding in shared pain. The core reacted. The light around them turned crimson, the entire void shaking violently. Vera screamed. It's merging us too fast. Eli held on, refusing to let go. You said one blood survives, then we'll make it both. The core howled. Energy exploded between them, sending waves of power across the chamber. The voices screamed and then fell silent. When the light faded, Eli found himself lying on cold metal ground again. The sky above was dark now, filled with red lightning. Vera was beside him, breathing hard. The chain still linked them, but it looked different. Half gold, half violet, pulsing with two rhythms that beat in sync. She touched it gently. It shouldn't be possible. Eli smiled weakly. Guess we broke your God's rules. Before she could answer, a deafening roar echoed from the clouds. Dozens of alien ships descended, sleek, silver, and bristling with weapons. Vera's face went pale. The Purity Armada. They've come to erase everything. Eli pushed himself up, pain burning through his arm but defiance burning stronger in his heart. Then they're about to find out what happens when a human signs a blood contract with a god. Above them, the ships formed a circle, their cannons charging. The light reflected in Eli's eyes like fire. Vera, he said quietly, let's show them what unity really looks like. The sky burned with red lightning as the Purity Armada descended through the clouds. Warships formed a halo of metal and hatred above the shattered plains. Every gun turret pointed down at the same spot, where Eli Cross, a lone human, stood beside the chained alien woman. Vera, snow had melted into black ash. The ground trembled with the low hum of charging plasma cannons. Eli squinted up at the ships. They don't look like the friendly type. Vera's voice was barely a whisper. They've come to erase me. And anything touched by me. He gave her a sideways grin. Too bad. I'm already contaminated. The glow from their shared chain pulsed between them, golden and violet light mixing like fire and dusk. The air around them crackled, humming in rhythm with their heartbeat. The core beneath the planet had gone silent, but Eli could still feel its pulse through the ground. Slow, ancient, watching. A voice boomed from the largest ship. This is Commander Talon of the Purity Armada. Release the abomination or be vaporized, Eli raised a brow. Guess subtle diplomacy's not their style. Vera's expression was grim. They believe they're purging corruption. To them, we are a disease. Eli stepped forward, his boots sinking into the soft ash. Funny thing about diseases, he said quietly. They evolve. A blast of plasma struck the ground a few meters away, shaking the earth. Eli shielded his face from the light. Vera screamed his name, but he didn't move. The runes on his arm ignited, glowing like molten gold. The chain vibrated violently, sending sparks into the air. The next blast never reached them. It froze mid-air, suspended by an invisible barrier of light. The energy pulsed, turned blue, and then vanished completely. Eli blinked. Did we just stop that? Vera stared, stunned. The core is protecting us through you. Through us, he corrected. Above, the fleet hesitated. Another voice shouted through the comms. Containment field detected. Target anomaly. Dozens of soldiers descended on hover platforms, weapons glowing. They surrounded Eli and Vera, forming a circle of light and death. One of the aliens stepped forward, his armor engraved with runes of purity. He sneered. You dare stand beside impurity, human? She carries the disease that ended your own kind's empire. Eli's voice was calm but sharp. You call it a disease. I call it a connection, the soldier spat. You share her blood now. You're already lost, Eli smirked. Then you'll have to deal with both of us. He raised his arm and the air exploded with light. The runes blazed brighter, gold merging with violet. The chain snapped free from his wrist, coiling into the air like a serpent made of energy. It lashed outward, striking the soldiers' weapons, melting them to dust. Vera's eyes widened in awe. Eli, how are you doing this? I'm not, he said through clenched teeth. We are. Her hand touched his shoulder and the glow intensified. Together they stood in a ring of light, the energy rippling outward in waves. The soldiers stumbled back as their scanners overloaded. Commander Talon's furious voice echoed from the ship above. Fire all cannons.
Burn them both.
Vera turned to Eli. If they hit us with everything, this whole planet will die. Eli's jaw tightened. Then let's make sure they don't get the chance. He closed his eyes. For a brief moment, he heard the core whisper inside his mind. Old voices, ancient sorrow, and one single truth. The bond is creation. When he opened his eyes, they glowed the same silver as hers. The sky split open. The energy around them surged upward like a rising sun. Beams of light struck the Armada's ships, but instead of burning, they froze in the air, trapped in a shimmering sphere. One by one, the warships lost power. Engines died. Cannons went dark. The fleet hung above the planet like lifeless statues. Silence fell. Eli exhaled slowly. Looks like the gods blinked first. Vera stared at him, her expression unreadable, part fear, part admiration. You're changing, Eli. You're becoming something my people never believed possible. He looked at his hands, now glowing faintly even as the light dimmed around them. Maybe that's what humans do best. We become what we need to survive. The wind carried ash and light around them, whispering through the still air. Far above, the fleet began to drift apart, powerless, watching in disbelief. Eli turned to Vera. They'll come again, won't they? Yes, she said softly. They always do, he smiled faintly. Then we'll be ready together. Vera hesitated, then reached for his hand. The chain between them shimmered once more, alive, balanced. No longer a symbol of shame, but of unity. As the two figures stood against the burning sky, the first dawn in centuries broke across the world of Zira 9, painting them in gold and violet light. The first light of dawn spread across the broken planet, melting frost into mist. Smoke rose from the wreckage of fallen ships, and the air shimmered with strange energy. The Purity Armada had fallen silent. Their mighty fleet floated powerless in the sky, paralyzed by the force they couldn't understand. Eli Cross stood at the center of it all, breathing heavily. His body trembled, not from fear, but from the raw power still humming in his veins. The glowing runes on his arm flickered like fading embers. Vera watched him quietly. Her silver eyes reflected the new sunlight. You shouldn't be alive after that, she whispered. Eli forced a tired smile. Humans have a bad habit of surviving impossible things. She stepped closer, the chain between them faintly glowing gold and violet. It's more than survival. The core answered you. It listened. Eli looked up at the silent sky. It didn't feel like it was listening. It felt like it was judging. The ground beneath them rumbled softly. From the cracks, a pulse of blue light spread outward. Calm this time, not violent. The energy washed over the landscape, touching wreckage, soldiers, and shattered structures. Where it passed, metal mended, ice thawed, and wounded bodies began to heal. Vera gasped, staring in disbelief. It's not destroying, it's restoring. Eli blinked. Restoring what? Life, she said softly. The Core's real purpose wasn't death. It was healing. My people lied about it for centuries. They watched as soldiers once filled with hate opened their eyes, confusion replacing rage. The crimson glow that once marked them as pure faded, replaced by soft silver lines like hers. Eli's hand tightened on the chain. You mean, all that death, all those wars were because they misunderstood what this thing could do? Vera nodded slowly. They feared what they couldn't control. They sealed it away, called it corruption. But it was never corruption. It was compassion. He stared at her for a long moment, the wind brushing through their hair. A weapon that heals, he said quietly. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. Vera looked away. No, Eli, it's more than human. It's both of us. For a moment, peace filled the air. The light dimmed to a warm glow. Birds, real birds, not drones or scanners, flew overhead for the first time in centuries. But then Eli staggered. His knees buckled and he fell forward. The chain flared bright, reacting violently. Eli! Vera caught him, her hands glowing with panic. His pulse raced beneath her fingers, but his body felt cold. He coughed, smiling weakly. Guess power like that has a price. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. No, the Core is stabilizing the planet. It shouldn't take from you. Maybe it's just balancing things out, he said quietly. I took too much. The glow around him faded fast. The runes on his skin flickered like dying stars. Vera pressed her forehead against his. Don't you dare leave me now, he chuckled softly. You sound like someone who cares. I do, she whispered. More than I was ever allowed to. The Core's hum deepened beneath them, sensing her distress. The chain pulsed again, brighter this time, as if answering her heart instead of his. She looked down at him, determination hardening her expression. If it took your strength, I'll give it mine. Eli's eyes fluttered open. No, don't, you'll burn yourself out. She smiled sadly. Then we'll burn together. Vera pressed her palm to his chest. The chain split into threads of light, weaving around them both. The ground shook as their energy merged one last time. The Core reacted instantly. The blue glow surged into gold. The light spread across the horizon like a new sunrise, reaching the orbiting ships, the broken mountains, the frozen seas. Every trace of war began to fade, and at the heart of it all, two figures stood locked in the storm, human and alien, surrounded by a halo of golden fire. When the light finally dimmed, Eli was lying still, his heartbeat weak but steady. Vera knelt beside him, her body trembling. Her once silver eyes now glowed faintly gold. She smiled through tears. Your body is stabilizing. I gave you part of mine. You'll live. He tried to speak, but his throat ached. What about you? I'll live, she said softly. Through you. He looked into her eyes, realizing the truth. She had shared more than her energy. Their life forces were now one. His blood ran faintly silver. Hers pulsed with human warmth. As the sun rose over the reborn planet, the last warship fell silent. The soldiers, freed from hatred, lowered their weapons and knelt. They weren't bowing to fear. They were bowing to something new. The legend of the dirty heritage had ended, replaced by something pure and human. The world of Zera 9 no longer burned. The skies were soft gold, the air clean for the first time in centuries. Smoke had turned to mist, and the ruins of war were now covered in quiet light. Eli Cross lay still among the glowing stones, half human, half something more. The chain that once bound him and Vera now shimmered faintly between their wrists, pulsing like a slow, gentle heartbeat. Vera sat beside him, exhausted but alive. Her body was weak, her breathing shallow, but her eyes, once silver, now carried a golden warmth. She had given him everything, her strength, her life, her blood. When Eli stirred, she let out a shaky breath of relief. You're awake, she whispered. He blinked at her, confused at first. Did we win? She smiled softly. There was no battle left to win, only life to give back. He sat up slowly, staring at the horizon. The Purity Armada hung motionless above them. No weapons. No commands. The soldiers on the ground had dropped their rifles and were kneeling, not out of fear, but out of awe. What did we do, Vera? Her voice was quiet but steady. We showed them what compassion looks like when it has teeth. He gave a faint laugh. That sounds like something a human would say. She tilted her head, a faint spark of humor in her eyes. Maybe I'm learning. A soft breeze moved across the plains. The golden light from the core pulsed one last time beneath their feet, then faded into silence. The planet had gone still, healed, balanced. But Eli could feel something cold inside him, deep in his chest. His heartbeat had changed. It was slower, heavier, each thump echoing with alien rhythm. He touched his wrist, feeling the faint shimmer of the chain. Vera noticed. You feel it too, don't you? He nodded. Yeah, it's different. Like my blood isn't just mine anymore. She looked down. It isn't. Part of me lives inside you now. The core bound us, our minds, our memories, even our souls. Eli was quiet for a long moment. So if you die... She finished his sentence softly. You die too. He exhaled slowly, staring at the alien sun climbing the sky. Then I guess I'll just have to make sure you live a very long time. Vera smiled faintly, though her eyes shimmered with emotion. You're not afraid? Eli shook his head. I've lived through worse than sharing my heartbeat with someone who saved me. They stood together, the chain glinting softly between them. Around them, soldiers and civilians from both species began to gather, watching silently. The air carried a strange peace, a feeling none of them remembered. One of the alien commanders stepped forward, his once proud armor cracked and dim. He bowed his head. Dirty heritage no more, he said quietly. You are the bridge our prophets spoke of. Vera's throat tightened. She had spent her life as a symbol of shame, and now they called her hope. Eli placed a hand on her shoulder. Looks like the galaxy finally got the message. Vera turned to him. And what message is that? He smiled, eyes glinting under the golden light. That compassion doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The crowd around them bowed, not to worship, but to remember. The Purity Armada's banners fell, drifting down like quiet feathers. The war was over, and something new had begun. Vera glanced at Eli, a small smirk playing on her lips. You know, for a human, you talk like a philosopher. He chuckled. For an alien goddess, you complain a lot. For the first time... She laughed, real laughter, bright and alive. Above them, the core's last whisper echoed in their minds. Balance restored. Eli looked toward the sky, feeling the faint hum of its voice in his veins. It's done, he said quietly. But it's not over. Vera nodded. No, it's just beginning. They turned toward the dawn, their silhouettes framed by light. The chain between them pulsed one last time. No longer a shackle, but a promise. Eli smiled at her. Now you can never pull away. Vera reached for his hand, her golden eyes glowing softly. Why would I ever want to? The wind carried their laughter across the silent plains, over the healed cities, into the stars themselves. And somewhere deep beneath the world, the core slept again. This time not as a prison, but as a guardian of peace born from the blood of two who refused to hate.